It started with a whisper, then it tore through the internet like a hurricane. One clip, just 47 seconds long. Denzel Washington, a man known for his quiet dignity and razor-sharp poise, sat across from the host of Late Night America. The studio lighting shimmered across his expression, a calm storm brewing beneath the surface. Then he said it. There's something wrong when people die for politics. And when powerful men play God, innocent lives get caught in the crossfire. At first, the audience clapped, unsure what they had just heard. But the pause that followed was heavy, too deliberate to be accidental. When the host asked, "Are you talking about former President Trump?" Denzel didn't blink. He simply nodded. That was all it took. Within an hour, every major platform was on fire. Twitter, or what was left of it, exploded under the hashtag Denzel versus Trump. TikTok flooded with edits, dramatic music underlining the accusation. Newsrooms across America scrambled for context, trying to confirm whether he truly meant what everyone thought. But the phrasing was too clear, too pointed. Denzel Washington accuses Trump of involvement in Charlie Kirk's death. That sentence appeared across screens from New York to Los Angeles. It wasn't just trending, it was dominating. The White House, though Trump no longer occupied it, issued a quiet statement through allies. These baseless claims are a disgrace to the memory of the deceased. But the silence from Trump himself was the loudest sound of all. Reporters camped outside Mar-a-Lago, lights flashing into the Florida night, waiting for the inevitable eruption. Inside a private suite, aides debated. Should he ignore it, sue for defamation, or strike back? Trump was pacing, phone in hand, face red with fury. "He want to fight?" he shouted. "He's about to get one." And just like that, America's next great cultural explosion had begun. A battle between Hollywood's most respected voice and Washington's most divisive one. What had started as a late-night interview was now shaping up to be the media war of the decade. By sunrise, the story had mutated into a national crisis. Every network, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, devoted full coverage to the feud now being called Hollywood versus the House of Trump. Behind closed doors in Mar-a-Lago, the mood was electric with fury. Trump was pacing the marble floor, his phone buzzing with messages from advisors. He didn't like being ignored, and he sure as hell didn't like being accused of murder on national television. "Give me a camera," he barked, slamming his fist on the table. "He wants a headline. I'll give him one." Minutes later, Trump's Truth Social post went live, a wall of capital letters screaming across every screen in America. Denzel Washington is a fraud. Another Hollywood liar trying to stay relevant. Charlie Kirk was a great patriot, and I had nothing to do with his death. Total hoax. Esade. The post detonated online. His supporters flooded the comments, demanding Denzel retract his words. His critics laughed, saying Trump was unraveling again. But the real story was only beginning. Within hours, Trump's media team arranged an emergency broadcast from his Palm Beach estate. The gold-trimmed podium gleamed beneath the spotlights, and Trump leaned into the microphone, his tone dripping with venom. "You see what's happening? The radical Hollywood elites. They can't stand seeing America rise again. They invent lies. They twist tragedy into theater. But I'm still here, and I always fight back." The crowd of loyalists erupted behind him, chanting, "USA, USA." But the damage was already spreading. Every outlet dissected his every word. Some called it a meltdown, others a masterstroke. Denzel remained silent, at least publicly. Yet insiders leaked that his team was preparing a formal response with documents, statements, and something that would end the debate permanently. Meanwhile, across Los Angeles, a single tweet appeared from Denzel's verified account. Just 4 words. "Truth doesn't fear power." Those words ignited a firestorm far bigger than either man expected. This wasn't politics anymore. It was war for credibility, truth, and control of America's attention. By the afternoon of the second day, America had split clean down the middle. On one side were those who hailed Denzel as a truth teller, a man finally brave enough to challenge the untouchable. On the other were Trump's defenders, convinced that this was yet another smear from Hollywood's corrupt elites. Every outlet chose a side, and neutrality evaporated. Fox News ran a segment titled The Hollywood Witch Hunt, while CNN pushed the courage to speak truth to power. The online comment sections looked like war zones. People weren't arguing about facts anymore. They were defending their identities. At Denzel's home in Beverly Hills, things were no calmer. His publicist's phone buzzed nonstop. Talk shows wanted him, news anchors begged for an exclusive, and journalists camped at his driveway, hoping for a single comment. But Denzel was quiet, too quiet. According to a close associate, he had spent the entire morning reviewing footage, transcripts, and one particular email chain from months prior. Something involving Trump's inner circle, a consulting firm, and what insiders now whispered could be a media operation gone wrong. In a leaked recording from a network executive, one producer could be heard saying, "If Denzel really has proof that Trump's people tried to bury the Kirk story, we're looking at a scandal bigger than Watergate." Meanwhile, Trump's circle scrambled to regain control of the narrative. The audience went silent. "This," he said, "is correspondence between Trump's media advisors and a private analytics firm, sent days after Kirk's death. It references a suppression order, using his name, his voice, his platform." Within seconds, the control room lit up with red alerts. Social media went nuclear. The word suppression flashed in headlines before the interview even finished. Collins pressed, "Are you claiming the former president knowingly authorized this?" Denzel's eyes narrowed. "I'm saying he created an environment where truth was dangerous and silence was rewarded." In Mar-a-Lago, aides huddled around a flat screen as Trump shouted, "That's fake. That's Hollywood garbage." But even as he raged, the networks replayed the footage on loop. Every second, every word. Analysts were already calling it the most explosive interview since Frost/Nixon. Online, the reaction was chaos. Supporters of Denzel flooded timelines with clips and memes declaring him the voice of courage. Trump loyalists fought back with hashtags like #DenzelLies and #HollywoodHoax. But one post hit harder than the rest. A quiet tweet from Denzel himself 30 minutes after the broadcast. "I'm not afraid of truth. Are you?" It was retweeted 2.3 million times in a single night. By midnight, 2 congressional representatives had called for an investigation into the alleged email chain. Cable news anchors debated its authenticity. And somewhere in Los Angeles, Denzel stood by his window, watching helicopters buzz over his house. He knew he'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The next move belonged to Trump, and everyone knew it wouldn't be quiet.by dawn. The calm was over. Trump's rage had found its megaphone. At exactly 6:15 a.m., his Truth Social feed exploded with a post in all caps. "Denzel Washington is a liar and a fraud. Hollywood elite trying to destroy me. He should be sued for defamation, and he will be." Within minutes, Fox News flashed breaking banners. "Trump TO sued Denzel Washington for $250 million. His supporters erupted with applause, calling it the fight of the century. But behind the bravado, Trump's inner circle wasn't celebrating. Legal advisors warned him privately that the lawsuit could backfire. If Denzel's evidence held up, discovery could expose more than anyone wanted. Still, Trump didn't care. "I don't lose," he growled during a hastily arranged press conference. Cameras crowded the gilded ballroom of Mar-a-Lago as he stormed to the podium, a sea of flashing bulbs illuminating his furious expression. "You've got actors pretending to be heroes, spreading lies to stay relevant. Denzel Washington should stick to movies because he clearly doesn't understand reality. We're going to end this slander once and for all." As he spoke, networks split their screens, half showing Trump's fiery tirade, half replaying Denzel's 60 minutes footage. The contrast was cinematic. The showman versus the statesman, rage versus restraint. By noon, #Trump versus Denzel trended worldwide. Analysts called it the digital Super Bowl of outrage. Political commentators dissected every phrase, every gesture, every pause. CNN ran polls showing public opinion shifting. 58% believed Denzel was telling the truth, while 32% sided with Trump. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Denzel remained composed. He was filming a charity PSA when reporters ambushed him with questions about Trump's lawsuit. He paused, smiled slightly, and said, "You can't sue someone for pointing at the sun and saying it's hot." The clip went viral instantly. That night, comedians mocked Trump's meltdown. Late-night hosts imitated his shouting, while social media turned his press conference into memes. But deep within the chaos, Denzel's legal team was quietly building something far more dangerous.
3 days after Trump's press conference, America woke up to digital shockwaves. At 7:43 a.m., a file titled Project Silence.pdf began circulating on Reddit, Twitter, and encrypted forums. Within an hour, it reached every newsroom in the country. The document contained a series of internal memos from a media consulting firm, emails that mentioned both Trump's campaign and a directive to limit coverage of the Kirk incident. One of the attached messages read, "Priority, contain narrative before influencers escalate. Washington's name must be neutralized." It took less than 15 minutes for the New York Times to verify the metadata. The timestamps matched the dates Denzel had referenced on 60 Minutes. By 9 a.m., cable networks were in full meltdown mode. CNN ran a breaking cheerin, "Leaked files support Denzel's claims." Fox hesitated, calling the documents unverified, but the story was already unstoppable. Commentators shouted over each other on live panels. TikTok flooded with clips of Denzel's calm voice from the interview, "Truth doesn't need a script." Trump's legal team scrambled. His spokesperson tried to dismiss the leak as deep fake propaganda, but experts on cybersecurity went live to debunk that narrative within the hour. One forensic analyst stated bluntly on MSNBC, "These files are authentic. Someone inside the operation decided to come clean." At Mar-a-Lago, aides described Trump pacing furiously, barking orders, demanding loyalty oaths. Several staffers' phones were confiscated. One insider told Politico, "He's terrified this trail leads back to his personal directive." Meanwhile, Denzel stayed silent again, strategically so. His silence was louder than any speech. The nation waited for his response, but all they got was a single image posted to his Instagram, a sunrise over Washington, D.C., captioned only, "Light always wins." That post hit 10 million likes by nightfall. By evening, Congress announced a bipartisan motion to review the leaked files. The Justice Department quietly opened a preliminary investigation into possible misuse of political influence in media management. The walls were closing in. For Trump supporters, it was betrayal. For his critics, vindication. And for Denzel, it was the moment his crusade transcended Hollywood, it became history. As the night stretched on, one headline dominated every screen in America. The leak that could end Trump. But this wasn't the end, it was only the ignition. When power is cornered, it fights back. And Trump fought like a wounded animal. Within 24 hours of the leak, a new wave of attack ads flooded social media, professionally produced videos accusing Denzel of fabricating evidence for fame. The tagline was everywhere, "Hollywood lies. Presidential truth." Each ad ended with the same image, Trump, hand on heart, beneath an American flag, while Denzel's silhouette faded into static. Behind the scenes, a shadow campaign had begun. Leaked texts later showed operatives from a super PAC discussing smear amplification, targeting Denzel's past film quotes, twisting them into political statements. One clip from Training Day, "King Kong ain't got nothing on me," was recut into a 15-second viral montage labeled Hollywood Arrogance. It exploded across conservative networks. The backlash was immediate. Denzel's family received threats. Protesters gathered outside his home, waving banners that read, "Traitor to America." But amid the noise, something remarkable happened. Millions more people began to rally behind him. The hashtag #StandWithDenzel hit 200 million views in 48 hours. Every major celebrity, from Morgan Freeman to Robert De Niro, spoke out. Freeman's post read simply, "Sometimes it takes an actor to reveal who's still pretending." Meanwhile, Trump ramped up the pressure. On Fox and Friends, he sneered, "These Hollywood people think they can run the country. Denzel's an overrated has-been. Let's see how he handles the truth in court." But legal experts noted something odd: no lawsuit had actually been filed. His threats were noise, loud, deliberate, but hollow. Yet his base didn't care. They chanted his name at rallies, shouting, "Lock him up," as if Denzel were a politician, not a movie star who dared to speak. In LA, Denzel held a private meeting with his advisors and a few trusted journalists. He played them a short audio clip, just 15 seconds long. A familiar voice, unmistakably Trump's, saying, "If he opens his mouth again, we'll bury him in headlines." The room went silent. One reporter whispered, "You're sitting on a bombshell." Denzel looked out the window, his reflection framed by city lights. "It's not about me," he said softly. "It's about what they're trying to hide." That night, his team began preparing something bigger, something that would take the chaos and turn it into reckoning. Across the country, Trump's camp tightened ranks, sensing a storm brewing they couldn't spin away. And the whole nation watched, knowing that when Denzel struck next, it wouldn't be a sound bite. It would be a detonation. It was Thursday morning when the world stopped again. Major networks interrupted their broadcasts with the same banner. Denzel Washington announces emergency press conference, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The streets outside the Beverly Hilton swarmed with cameras, reporters, and protesters from both sides. Chants of "Truth for Kirk" clashed with shouts of "Hollywood fraud." Police barricades strained as thousands gathered under a burning California sun. When Denzel finally stepped onto the podium, wearing a dark suit and calm expression, the crowd fell silent. He didn't bring lawyers or bodyguards, just a single folder in his hand. His voice was firm, carrying through every microphone. "For days, we've heard about lies, leaks, and lawsuits. But the truth doesn't need protection. It needs daylight." He opened the folder and revealed a printed transcript, emails, time-stamped and signed by senior aides from Trump's re-election committee. The subject line on one read, "Operation Quiet Storm, Strategy for Narrative Control." The body of the message was worse. It described strategic suppression of sensitive political incidents and referred directly to the Kirk fallout. One line stood out in bold. "Engage high-profile surrogates to deflect responsibility. If necessary, use fear." Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted. Social media imploded. Within minutes, CNN, MSNBC, and even conservative outlets were streaming the documents live. The evidence was undeniable: real headers, verified accounts, and IP addresses leading directly back to Mar-a-Lago servers. Denzel didn't raise his voice once. "This isn't about parties," he said. "This is about power thinking it can bury people, truth, and conscience. I won't let that happen." The applause was thunderous. Outside, people cried, cheered, and filmed everything. Hashtags exploded, hashtag no more silence, hashtag truth wins, hashtag Denzel the voice. By sunset, the crowd had grown into tens of thousands. Cities across the country began holding vigils, lighting candles not only for Kirk, but for every truth crushed by politics. In Washington, D.C., the White House issued a terse statement denying all allegations. Trump appeared hours later on camera, red-faced and defiant. "This is fake. Pure fake. He's making it all up to sell movies. I'll crush this in court." But behind closed doors, his advisors were in chaos. One aide leaked to The Guardian, "We checked the metadata, it's legit. If these documents hold up, it's over." As night fell, Denzel posted a video to his followers, just 15 seconds long. No music, no edits. They said the truth would ruin me. I think it just saved me. It became the most shared clip in America within 4 hours. By midnight, protest chants echoed from Los Angeles to New York. No kings. No silence. No more lies. And somewhere in Florida, Trump stared at the television in silence for the first time in years. By the end of that week, America had turned into a fever dream. Every news station was running split screens, on one side, Trump's spiraling defense, on the other, Denzel's calm, measured resolve. Polls shifted faster than analysts could read them. Approval for Trump's leadership among his own base plummeted by 15 points overnight. Congress announced a bipartisan ethics review. Even Fox hosts began to distance themselves, describing the documents as troubling. At Mar-a-Lago, chaos reigned. Former aides resigned en masse. Lawyers withdrew one by one. Anonymous staffers leaked recordings of Trump screaming through the night, rants about traitors, Hollywood, and fake loyalty. A journalist later revealed he had broken 3 telephones in 24 hours. Meanwhile, Denzel's influence exploded beyond imagination. He became the voice of integrity, not just in Hollywood, but across America. When he appeared outside the Lincoln Memorial for an impromptu gathering, over 50,000 people showed up without a single official announcement. Cameras caught him standing quietly, hands folded, as the crowd chanted, "Truth doesn't need power, power needs truth." The image went viral instantly, immortalized as the Denzel moment. Trump's allies tried to retaliate. They accused Denzel of collusion with the media, of trying to build a political brand. But their attacks no longer landed. Every time they swung, the evidence hit back harder. Then came the final blow. The Department of Justice subpoenaed several members of Trump's inner circle for questioning related to Project Silence. Within hours, the internet exploded with one name, Stephen Crowley, media coordinator, Mar-a-Lago Communications. He flipped. And when he did, he confirmed the unthinkable. Trump had personally authorized the suppression campaign, even dictating parts of the email that ordered narrative control on the Kirk story. CNN called it the most damning political confession since Watergate. By evening, Trump's attorneys held a press briefing but refused to answer questions. He was reportedly furious, pacing his estate, muttering, "They can't touch me. I'm Trump. I'm untouchable." But even his own reflection, caught on a late-night live feed, looked defeated. Denzel, meanwhile, addressed the public one last time that day. Standing on a simple stage, with no teleprompter, he said, "This was never about destroying a man. It was about reminding the world that no one, no matter how rich or loud, is above truth." The silence that followed was sacred. Millions watched live. It wasn't entertainment anymore, it was reckoning. By the next morning, newspapers across the nation carried the same headline. "The king has fallen." And for the first time in modern history, it wasn't a politician or a pundit who had brought down a titan. It was an actor armed with truth. Winter sunlight poured over Washington, D.C., cold and pale, as if the city itself were exhausted. The storm had passed, but nothing felt the same. Trump was silent, truly silent, for the first time in decades. No tweets. No rants. No rallies. He had retreated to Mar-a-Lago, surrounded by half-empty rooms and unpaid staff. What was once his empire had turned into an echo chamber. Sources described him wandering the gilded halls late at night, replaying clips of his old speeches, mumbling to himself, "They used to cheer, they all used to cheer." Once the symbol of dominance, he now looked like a man haunted by the weight of his own myth. Meanwhile, across the country, Denzel had become something beyond a movie star. He was a symbol. A living embodiment of conscience in an age of noise. Universities invited him to speak on truth and leadership. His face appeared on magazine covers, not for a new film, but under headlines like, the actor who made America listen. At a memorial held in honor of Charlie Kirk, Denzel spoke briefly, his tone measured but heavy with meaning. What we lost wasn't just a man. It was the idea that honesty still mattered. Maybe now, we remember. The audience, politicians, journalists, citizens, stood in quiet respect. For once, no one shouted, no one spun the story. The air felt cleaner, as if truth had finally taken its first full breath in years. In a final televised interview, Denzel was asked if he regretted anything. He smiled faintly. Regret? No. But I do wish it hadn't taken this much noise to make people hear. The interviewer leaned forward. Do you think Trump will ever respond again? Denzel's eyes flickered, then softened. Maybe he will. But the question isn't whether he speaks again, it's whether we've learned to stop believing every man who shouts louder than the truth. That line echoed across the nation. Commentators replayed it for days. Late-night hosts quoted it. Protesters painted it on banners. It became a rallying cry for a generation tired of chaos. In the weeks that followed, Congress finalized its investigation. Indictments loomed. Historians began calling it the Denzel effect, the moment when art, truth, and courage collided so powerfully that even the most untouchable man in America couldn't escape accountability. Months later, as Denzel stood alone on a film set in New York, watching the sun dip behind the skyline, he whispered to himself. No kings. No silence. No lies. The camera crew thought it was a rehearsal. But for Denzel Washington, it was closure. The story wasn't about fame, or revenge, or power. It was about a single man's refusal to bow to a false throne. And somewhere, deep in the collective conscience of America, that defiance kept burning, quietly, fiercely, endlessly. The end of one era. The beginning of another.